Hello, this is Dr. Melissa Cohen. Welcome to How to Be Assertive Without Being Called the B Word. So, assertiveness, let's just start here. Assertiveness and self-confidence, they are very important interpersonal communication skills and traits that can be practiced and learned. And so just be aware that when you are working on your assertiveness and self-confidence, some of the most or one of the most common phrases I hear, and I've lived by it as well, is fake it till you make it. So some of these things with women being in the business fields and such, they are perceived, if they are assertive, if they make statements that are too harsh or deemed too harsh by others, they are considered the B word. And I'm not going to say that in this presentation, but we'll just let you know that word rhymes with witch. But if a male typically would say the same content or the same type of information and maybe deliver it in the same way, they're just being a leader. So how do we work through some of these misconceptions and such? Well, the first one is not even on the slide here, but I'm just going to tell you is that you need to be aware of yourself as a spectator, as a listener. So that's the first place to start. And the second place to start is to educate others within the conversation of how to be, let's say, not nice, because sometimes that's not what you want to, that's not the point you want to make as a leader, perhaps as a senior executive, someone in the C-suite as well. But you do need to be assertive. If you are going to aspire to be a leader or a manager and such, there are certainly managers and leaders that are introverts and quiet and such. Everyone has their own leadership style, but typically these are people who are going to be more assertive. So how to be more assertive without being considered a bewitch. We'll just go with that. So just what I wanted to start that with is just to let you know that this isn't something that just has to be your natural personality. These are skills that you can practice and learn and become much better. So remember, when you're actually speaking with someone, you want to, first of all, what's your goal in the interaction? What do you want to, what's the purpose of having the conversation? Is it a leader to a leader, manager to manager? Is it a manager to a sub-employee? Is it one speaker speaking out into an audience at a seminar or a conference? So what is the goal of the interaction? So you need to consider, here are three items: the audience, the goal, and the third one is the long-term relationship. Now, just to give you an example, I used to negotiate commercial real estate leases, and I did this all over the phone. Lease renewals, let's put it that way. So I'm not doing the full document. We're just adding a couple, 3 to 5 year terms onto the current lease. But within my position, the landlords themselves varied. It could possibly be one, I say mom and pop in the Midwest of the United States of America, who own one store. That could be my audience. And we're going to scale it all the way up to regional centers. It could also be attorneys in the major cities, such as New York City, Washington, D.C., very specialized in commercial real estate and very intelligent, etc. So I just had a wide range of individuals that I had to deal with to get these lease renewals in one of my jobs. And so I also had to, part of that was considering who my audience was, who, if it was one mom and pop store that owns one store, I had to take more of an education approach to them and what we were trying to achieve as a company. Whereas on the other hand, when you were dealing with attorneys and the regional supercenter landlords and such, it's a much different approach of, okay, this is more of what our management is going to approve. Do you want this deal or not? And you have to give me the best deal. And I take it to our VPs and such, and they decide. So it's a little bit more, I don't want to say cutthroat, but it wasn't as much educating and such. All right, so let's go back and look a little bit more about what is assertiveness, how to be assertive, how to be strong in your wording, how to be strong in your speaking, your body positioning and such. So assertiveness is defined as 3 areas. 1 is confidence, 2 is showing respect, and 3 is standing for your rights. So all 3 of these should work together so that you basically increase your confidence, or not increase your confidence, your credibility as a speaker in the room. And so now let's look a little bit, well, what is self-confidence? Well, it's a belief in yourself, it's a belief in your abilities, and it's a belief in your judgment. So as I mentioned before, we've heard the phrase, fake it till you make it. And you can kind of fake some of these things as well. One idea is just to practice your wording. Practice what you would say. Practice some responses, whether you're in the car driving, you're at home, just what would be some natural responses. And you practice this out loud. Some of these items, if you want a little bit more practice, there's some very specific organizations you could join. There's a Toastmasters of America. So you could look and see if there's a local chapter around you. And basically it's people working on and preparing speeches, and they go in front of a group and everybody gives a speech, and there'll be different topics and different types of speeches to give each week, and everybody judges each other in a nice way. I don't want to say judge, I should just say offer suggestions for improvement, but it's a safe place to practice. Other ideas, and this is where I improved, is I simply volunteered with, gosh, I should actually say it. I volunteered at an aquarium. It was 1 or 2 Sundays a month for about 3 to 4 hours, where I would have to memorize a script about a certain animal. And as people, the patrons and customers came through, I would give a short spiel about the animals. So it was one of those situations where it was very low pressure because I was the expert. And if it was something I didn't know, then I just confessed, hey, I'm just a volunteer. You know, we've got actual veterinarians on staff. Maybe we can find the answer for you, etc. But mostly it was pretty much people were very happy to hear your 5 or 10 minute presentation and then move on. And it wasn't like I had to be the best speaker. I just had to speak loud and clear. But I also taught or learned the skills, practicing, speaking slowly, articulating words, etc. So once you find how you can, your route to maybe improve your self-confidence, I think a lot of this information is going to come out and make it easier for you. So your self-confidence in yourself, if you speak well, if you know the material well, that is going to improve. So you can also improve your abilities by working on those as well. So maybe, since I was not an expert on penguins, I'll just tell you this. I definitely had to do some additional reading. I wanted to feel more confident in the knowledge that I knew. I obviously practiced the script and that content that I needed to know specifically about the species of penguins that they had. And so I just kept practicing it. I would give my own spiel. I'd brush my teeth, stand in the mirror a couple minutes and practice, every night or something. And then belief and judgment. That is also knowing, am I doing this correctly? Am I making the best choices? Am I saying these things the best way, etc.? All right, so there are 3 communication styles. We have passive, we have aggressive, and we have assertive. So the first one is passive, and that's probably one that you may know, and that's basically very low key. You just want to think, maybe more willing to let bygones be bygones, be more nice, where you don't rock the boat or anything like that. The second one is aggressive, and that's going to come off a little bit more harsh, where you may use inappropriate words. I don't want to say like curse words, but there are some words that have certain harshness to them and such that have more impactful meaning. You may be more blunt, you may be more direct, and that can be with the words and the style of your language and your body language and how it is said can be perceived as more aggressive. But ideally what we're going to shoot for is the last one, and that's assertive. So that's being more of a, taking I say a teacher tone. That's a good way of, saying it, is just being assertive of, excuse me, I would like to make a point here, or I would like to ask a question, please. You can say please without being seen as less credible. You can just be very specific in what you need to say. And there's also specific wording you can use too. So I think we talk about that a little bit as well, so that you're seen a little as more assertive versus aggressive. All right, and here we go. It's how you say it. So are you upbeat when you say it? Are you saying it warm? Are you being very clear in the words that you're saying? Articulating the words is one form of being clear, but also making sure that you understand it and that the people you're asking the question to, or you're making the statement to, that you're giving all the content to be clear in what information you're conveying. And also, it's how you say it. The fourth one is under control. So obviously, if we're getting in a shouting match, that's not effective as well. So to sound confident, there's three things you need to look at, and one is pitch. The second is volume, and the third is quality. And this all helps you sound confident. So pitch, what is it? Well, if you talk kind of soft like this, then a lot of people are just going to kind of talk over you, and they're not going to really listen to you. But if you maybe inhale in your lungs a little bit, maybe stand a little taller, speak a little bit more forcefully, that is going to make your pitch sound more credible and more confident. Now, the second one is volume. So if you have something that you really want to say, but you're talking very soft and very fast, then no one's going to really also listen to you because they can't hear you, especially if there's a lot of people in the room and there's people shouting. But if you talk a little louder, and I say my teacher tone. So if you are trying to speak and there's at least 30 or 40 people in the classroom, you want them to engage with you. You want them to perk up and listen after they've already had a long day, or they have no interest in your topic. So you've got to project the volume out there, and you've got to change your pitch as well, and you've got to speak with quality. So if it's words that you don't know how to say very well, maybe it's financial terms, maybe it's a lot of science terms. I have trouble with that as well. The quality and how you sound and pronounce the words make a difference as well. So there are things you can do to practice and improve those too. All right, the next is asking questions. So let's just say, okay, I don't know what's going on. I need more information. So you can ask questions, and there's three types of questions. One is an open-ended question, and that's simply more of a, how are you feeling today? Right? And then that person can say, well, I'm feeling happy, sad, glad, whatever. They can answer that way. The second type of question is closed-ended questions. And that's basically you are looking for a yes, no answer. You're looking for one simple answer. And it could be, are you happy today or are you sad? And they can just answer one of those. What's your favorite food for lunch? And they can say pizza or sandwiches. There's a closed-ended, looking for one specific answer. And then the third type of questions are clarifying questions. And so when most cases you're in a business, I think of a business setting, and you need to get more information or make sure you understand what the person is saying. So you need to ask a clarifying question. Yes, Mr. Smith, let me summarize and make sure I understand this. So what I heard you say was ABC is XYZ. Is that correct? Or can you help me understand the concepts of learning the alphabet from A to Z? And I think you said, or what I heard you said, or what I understood is, these are just a couple phrases that you can use to help ask clarifying questions. Right. Another point for this assertiveness is your body language. So Body language is signaling to others. It is a form of communication. It is how people look at you and see you and how you're projecting to the world. If you're, oh, let's go through here. So it signals to others. It is unconsciously sent. And I say, we're going to change that. We're going to make it consciously sent. And we're going to talk about some examples in just a second here. And it's also 93% of communication. So if you walk into a room and you've got your shoulders back, you are dressed appropriately for the situation, you walk in confidently with your head up, you are engaging with others, you're making eye contact, that is going to send one perception of being very aggressive and assertive versus someone who is slinking down. Maybe they got rounded shoulders, they're trying to hide out in the back, they're fiddling with their hair or fiddling with something and they're twitching or something. So that's not going to be seen as very assertive. And they're not willing to put their hand up, or they just put their hand halfway up instead of all the way up in the air so someone can see you. Depending on what the situation here. And the important thing to note is body language is 93% of communication. So even before you even get a word out of your mouth to ask a question or to make a statement, you're already being judged, unfortunately. So some of those things are standing up, standing tall, projecting your voice. We talked about that as well. And those are all parts of communication. All right, so here are some suggested phrases that may help you just in everyday vernacular here and conversations and business meetings and such that may help you just become more assertive. So one phrase that you can say is, let me repeat back to you to make sure that I understand the issue. And then you go on. So that's one of those clarifying questions. Let's see. Here's another one. I'm not quite sure I understand how you view this situation. Can you say more about it, please? Here is another phrase. I heard you say that you are blank, maybe feeling really overwhelmed at work. Is that correct? Can you clarify? Can you provide more information? Can you give me recent examples? However you want to go with that, just fill in the blank. When you do blank, it should be a verb. I feel an emotion because of the reason, and I want you to do the corrective action. So this is a big phrase here, but it says, when you miss the deadline on turning in the report, I feel overwhelmed and frustrated because I have a deadline to meet as well. And I want you to let me know if you are going to be 5 minutes late or 30 minutes late so that I can plan accordingly and also let my manager know when to expect the final report. That's a phrase to use. And honestly, I'm going to be honest, I learned this from my resident advisor position when I was in college. And this works out well because what you're doing is when you do X, Y, Z, you're being very specific on what that action is. And then you're putting the emotion in it. Like, what does that make me feel? And why does it make me feel that way? And then you're going to wrap it up by what you want them to do to fix the problem that's hand. Now, sometimes they're not going to do it, and that's okay. But at least you have provided enough information for your person that you're communicating to that they can make the decision on what they want to, whether they want to help you out or not, take that corrective action. But you've provided them enough information that then if they want to ask more questions, they certainly can. All right, so we talked about assertiveness, and most of it was assertive speaking, how to correct our body language. Now we're moving on to assertive listening. And what is this? This is mindfully direct your attention on the other person's words to hear their feelings, opinions, and desires. Listening is hard, folks. I'm just going to be honest. And if you've been listening to me for almost 20 minutes now, you may think, whoa, this was a lot. She's not quite what I want to hear. It's boring. I need to do two other things at the same time. So, but what assertive listening is I'm going to repeat it one more time, is that you are paying attention. So you are maybe taking action so that you actually hear what they're saying. Not that you're simply in the same room, you're listening, you're not doing anything else, but maybe your mind is wandering and you're not paying attention. You're distracted by something else and going on in the room, whatever may be going on. So the assertive listening is, it's kind of like when you're in college and you have to sit down and pay attention and actually take lecture notes for 45 minutes to an hour and a half, depending on how long the class is. So you need to learn how to do that. So sometimes it's writing down things that they're saying that helps you, keeps you engaged to what they're saying as well. So you become a better listener. All right, so here are some steps to improve your listening. One is to prepare. So especially if you're going into a business meeting, what is going to be the topic? Can you prepare in advance and learn more about what the meeting is going to be about? The second one is to listen and clarify. And we did that, talked about that just a second ago, of how to do that active listening. You can take notes. You can acknowledge by head shakes, but you are making sure that you are listening to everything they say. And then the third step is to acknowledge, and that's by asking the questions or say, I heard you. Oh, that's a great job. Thank you. It can be the body language as well. It can be just a head shake, a lot of thumbs up these days, especially across rooms and things like that. Now, one important thing that I like to mention here, and I have a blank slide and I do it on purpose, it's called the power of the pause. So when I learned in negotiating is just pausing. Say, part of that conversation of negotiating and asking for maybe a rent raise or rent reduction or whatever it could be, is asking something from the other person, is to ask them and then pause. And that's very powerful. And there's a couple reasons for it. Well, first of all, the person has to hear what you said. They have to process what they said, whether they agree or disagree or won't do it. And they have to think of their own answer and response. So if you ask the question like, can I have a 10% salary raise this year? And then you start talking and say, but I did this and da 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 da. And you don't get to listen to the answer, you're giving the other person an out, simply. So ask for the raise and then wait for it and let the person contemplate it. There may be reasons why they can or cannot give you a salary raise immediately, but they may be able to offer something else. But they're having to solve the problem and they need more than 2 seconds. So that's simply what that is, the power of the pause. Just ask the question and then wait for a good answer. All right, so here is another aspect of assertive behavior that we have to deal with. Okay, let's say you are assertive. Let's say you even cross the line maybe to the little bit of aggressive here. Maybe it's a heated conversation. But at some point, you have to learn how to deal with difficult people and difficult behavior, whether in your meeting, you're in an office, you're dealing with clients, customers, whatever the situation may be. So probably each of us can think of at least one difficult personality with whom we've had to deal with, either at work or in our personal lives. So, but having a strategy and knowing how to deal with this difficult behavior is going to make it much better for you to deal with. So with the strategy, it is possible to learn what the person does to annoy you. Oh, we've all been there. And what you might be doing to aggravate the situation. So this is a big one here, because you may be thinking this person is annoying the patootie out of me and I cannot stand them. And they may be purposely annoying you. They may be just annoying you from different factors. You just don't know why. I've dealt with a couple people like that in the past where I don't know why, but it just annoyed me. Either their voice, their tone, or they're always complained about something and it always annoyed me. But once I figured out what that was, or at least could categorize it a little bit better, then I was able to just take that out. Like, I could step out of that for a minute and try to figure out in the business world, like, well, what are they looking for? What are they having problems with, either me or my department, or what information are they trying to get out of me? What do they really need? And they're feeling frustrations on their end as well. And once you kind of realize that, then you think, okay, how can I help solve the problem? And the second part of this is, when you're dealing with this difficult behavior, is what you might be doing to aggravate the situation. So you might just be thinking, oh, this person just annoys me. I can't stand them. I'm getting out of here because I'm going to cut them off. Well, that's I just did a reenactment here. That may be aggravating the situation, because the other person may not be getting the information they need from you. And I'm just thinking, like, in the office, when you're just dealing with different departments, they may need a report, they may need a little piece of information from you, and they probably have already asked 10 other people in the office that day, or their boss needs it in 2 minutes, and they just need you to tell them what it is, etc. There's 1,000 different scenarios where this comes up. But if you are already aggravated, you're going to make the situation worse as well. So if you can recognize what that person does to annoy you, and also recognize how you're going to make that situation worse, then back off. You learn how to deal with it and back off, and just resolve the issue and move on. All right. And so here is another, I like to say, criticism. Very few people like criticism. There may be a few out there, but you're going to get criticized. You're sitting in a high level, high pressure meeting. People are yelling, maybe not even yelling, but they're being very aggressive. Everyone wants a turn to speak, etc. And at some point, someone's going to say something that you may not like. And they may say something bad about you. They may say something bad about your job performance. They may say something about your personality. They may say something about your clothes, or your body language, or anything that has nothing to do with the job. But that may happen. So we need to learn how to respond to criticism. Well, there's 3 different strategies here. The first one is called broken record. And if you don't know what a broken record is, because there may be a few of you around listening to this, it's where just a record player keeps skipping and it says the same thing over and over. There's a scratch on the vinyl and it keeps skipping at the same spot, and it will repeat that last, it could be 10 seconds, it can be 30 seconds. So if someone is starting to yell, and I've had this happen in some heated negotiations, not yell, but their voice starts to raise up and they get louder and louder because they think you can't hear them because you haven't said yes yet. Sorry, that was a little emphasis there. So what you do is you sound like a broken record. You keep repeating the same thing. And I also do this with my children because they don't seem to listen very well as well. So for example, I would like to help you today, but I cannot do that until 2 p.m. because I have meetings scheduled today. Yes, I understand you have issues that you need to be addressed, but I would love to help you get that done for you at 2 o'clock today because I have other meetings scheduled for the day, and that's the first time I can help you. And they may respond with a second or third. You say that once again, I would love to help you. I really, really do. I truly do. But I have to wait until 2 p.m. because I have all these other meetings scheduled. So see, you can this is an example of how you can keep saying the same thing over and over for a broken record. Now, I will be honest, you may just annoy people with that too. So kind of tread carefully and make sure you read the situation with that. The second one is on how to respond to criticism is simply shifting focus. So instead of, let's give an example of someone saying, all your company does is they do X, Y, Z, and we don't like it, and they're so bad, and blah, 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 and you need to do this, and they need to pay more money, and they need to do this. Well, you can shift the focus. There's a couple ways to do that, just in the conversation. Like, okay, first of all, I hear what you're saying. I'm trying to understand what you're saying. Let's see if we can try to resolve some of your issues one by one. Let me make sure I heard you. I have these 3 issues written down here. Let's look at these individually, and then let's see if we can get back to the big picture. So however you need to shift the focus, if everyone's talking about money, but there's really some other things that, the difference and such, just shift the focus Try to maybe say, let's do one issue at a time, instead of doing everything at once. Let's, depending on what the situation is. Okay. And then the third, responding to criticism, is a momentary delay or a timeout. There are 1,000 ways to do this. Like, okay, let's all take a 5-minute break. Let's take a 10-minute break. Let's think about this. Let's come back. Let's regroup in about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever you need. 2 days, however much time as you need. But you just take a momentary delay, time out. You let people, their emotions come down. You let them start thinking rationally. There are these books out there you read, can read about how the blood goes to the brain and it affects certain portions of the brain, and they get very excited and very aggravated and maybe yelling, that sort of thing. And if they're in this heated conversation, they're not going to come out of this state of mind. They need to actually go calm down, let the blood flow, go back into their bodies normally, so then they can come back and have maybe a different conversation with a little bit more professionalism, or at least not as much yelling, or whatever the situation may be. So however you can think of, like, let's do a momentary delay, let's do a momentary timeout, bathroom breaks, restroom breaks, water drink breaks. Someone needs to go make an important phone call. Someone needs to go find out some very important information before the final decision could be made. Just take a break. People leaving the room, people moving out, just a physical movement of some sort, that also helps to shift the brain, shift the thinking, and bring a different level of energy to the room as well. All right, everyone. Well, thank you for joining me for this webinar, is how to be assertive without being called the B word, the bewitch word. So I hope you learned a lot of different strategies and communication skills that can practice. First of all, you can practice on, and the second part of that is that you're now aware of. And when you come with this awareness, then you can see, okay, I see what this person's doing. This is how I can respond calmly and professionally as well, so that we can get to our goal at the end of the conversation here. So thank you for joining me. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. My name is Dr. Melissa Cohen, and whenever you listen to this, I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you.